The hour cometh and now is, so I'll call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Rules Committee of the Representative Town Meeting, Darien. And first item is to approve the minutes of January 8th, 2024. Can I have a motion? I just heard
Michael.
Patty. Michael, you want to do a second? Good. All right, any changes to the minutes? Additions, changes? No? Okay. All in favor then?
Aye.
Okay. I hear aye from Michael, yeah. Opposed, I see none. Abstentions, I see none. Motion carries. Next item is an update on a report, from the Rules Technology Committee. Lois.
Okay, quick report. Two things. Mike Wheeler is on vacation, away. And if anyone needs any Zoom meetings organized, I will do it or cover. I can organize the town Zooms or use my Zoom. So if anyone has any questions, needs any help, just contact me and you know how to find me. So that's piece one. The second piece is we've been working on this idea of standardizing the emails, and we ran into a technology problem with the idea of forwarding emails. So that process is on hold, and we're currently continuing to try and come up with an answer to solving or trying to standardize on DarienCT.gov. If anyone has any questions or would like to talk about ways they can handle their own emails, please contact me, and I'm happy to work with anybody and everybody.
So, Lois, when you talk about forwarding, like everyone has a Darien.
That's
Gov.
currently on hold because
Right.
we can't forward all different email addresses,
Okay.
only to some. And so unless we can do it for everybody, we really don't want to open up the big thing. But I'm happy to work individually with people that would like to do something with their own emails. Okay.
Great.
Parenthetically, I tried to do it on my email this afternoon.
Did you not do it?
You would not believe the places you have to go and the settings, and did I set that right and not set that right? It's not plain vanilla.
We're going to do a Zoom, and we're going to share screens, and we're going to get you.
Lois is going to help me.
Like I said, I'm happy to help
Lois
anybody
is
that
always
needs
pitching in. That's very good.
That's my
Is
result.
that everything?
Anyone even said?
Yes, I made a good stab at it, but now I'm not sure that I'm going to get any emails into my. We'll see.
Tomorrow, okay?
Tomorrow we'll have fun.
Okay,
Because it'll be snowy tomorrow.
oh, that's right.
And Mac Patrick is here, and he's going to talk about the noise ordinance.
Yeah, I'm Mac Patrick. I'm Chair of Public Health and Safety, and we've been having some meetings to really talk about gathering information. We've got planned meetings, and what we're doing is we're meeting with an individual of a town department. We're meeting with our committee, someone from our committee, and also a committee member from TGS&A, who's also working on this. And Frank, please interrupt me if I say anything that's not correct.
We've got a crack team working on this.
Okay, but some of the people we're going to be meeting with are the Darien Police Commission, Kate Bush, the Town Administrator, Department of Public Works, Planning and Zoning, and the Department of Health. And we kind of have a series of questions we want to have answered, because again, our charge is really just to come up with cohesive hours of operation for not only the carting services to pick up garbage. Really the complaints are early in the morning. We're going to try to get a handle on that, but also the contractors, landscapers, property owners, that really include homeowners too. About working their own equipment and what the hours should be for that. But some of the questions we'll ask are: how many complaints have been received? What are the dates, the time of day? Generally, what are the types and frequencies of the complaints? Are they unique, or is the same person or business making multiple complaints? We kind of want to know the general areas of town. Is it spread out all over town, or is it you know, in a tight area. Just so you know what the Board of Selectmen have recommended, they suggest the carting companies operate Monday through Saturday, 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. and no Sunday service. And a lot of that's kind of baked in because they really work the hours of the dump being open. And that is at what, 2:45, I think they knock off. So they're really not going to be working past that. They also have recommendations for contractors, painters, landscapers, property owners, including homeowners, and that's Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then Sundays 8 to 3. So those are the things we'll be asking various town officials, you know, about those hours and how they might fit in.
So Sunday 8 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So those of us cannot mow our lawn at 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Well, that's-
Sunday isn't an
Or
important day
6 or
to
7
me.
in the
No, no,
in the
no.
summer?
Yeah.
Sunday is not an important day to me.
Yeah. But these are
Very
interesting
good,
questions
Jack.
because there are people that
It
want
is
to.
not necessarily like a lawn mower, so don't worry about that.
I also have a leaf blower.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
And what we've seen in some,
Yeah.
Is that a
Jack,
big loud one?
Jack,
No.
in some of the communities we've looked at, the legislation applies to contractors and may not apply to individuals.
Yeah.
Here's-
We haven't
But
reached
that's a
that
slippery
point
slope.
yet.
Here's the
Yeah.
other thing. I have garbage pickup, which is why on the other email that I sent out recently, I understood that I'm old enough to get a free one by more than a couple of years. And, but we also get a second one, and I know the price for that. My garbage guy picks up about 5 in the morning. On occasion, I will hear him, but then I turn around and go right back to sleep. If we move it to 6 o'clock, based upon the time that they take to do their route, we are now forcing our garbage people to interfere with school buses.
Well, that's a whole nother issue about whether we actually as a town can tell the schools when they can operate their garbage pickup. That's, you know, that's.
No, I'm not talking about the schools, I'm saying, as my guy has to stop on my road, which is a main road, to empty my 2 bins that I have there, if I'm pushing that to 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, not only am I interfering with the traffic flow that's there, which is rather substantial, but also
Right.
with any school bus that's going on. So I'm just a little bit cautious about it.
Yeah, well, these aren't cast in stone, but these are the things we're gonna be talking about, because when we talk about the hours, we have to know why historically has it been like that? Why do the garbage trucks come to the schools at sometimes 4 in the morning?
No, I don't care about the
Yeah.
schools,
Well,
I
I know
care
you
about
don't.
residents.
I know you don't, but there are residents that do care about it, because
At the schools.
at the schools themselves, because it makes noise.
All right, well,
And,
I'm more
so we've had
concerned
those
about the
complaints.
traffic.
Yeah.
If you live in a neighborhood where the front property distance to the road is 50 feet, and on each side of you, they have garbage containers out to be picked up, and you happen to take yours to the dump because you want to go to the swap shop, at 6:30 in the morning, maybe a lot of people are, awake, but some aren't, and you're gonna get woken up at 6:30. Now, 7 o'clock is when the dump opens, so I would think that would be a consideration for a
Yeah.
time,
Well,
possibly.
yeah, we're gonna get a lot of information, because we're gonna talk to carting companies themselves.
They
And
want
find
to
out,
clear.
and we wanna find out why, why they're doing what they're doing. We've been told through the grapevine that some of the early hours that they operate in Darien is because there's set hours in other towns, so they come to Darien first.
Well, there's less traffic.
They could also do 2 runs.
Wait, one second, Michael, Michael would like to speak.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, back into others that are looking at it, not that it's necessarily meaningful, but just as an anecdote, the private associations in town, at least Tokenique and Delafield, have, construction time ordinances within the neighborhoods for our owned roads. We have an exception for carting. So your contractor cannot be at your house with his or her truck before 8 a.m., but your trash pickup can be. And our reasons for it were also, I mean, it was preceded me in the association, but it was, a lot of it was around not wanting the carting trucks to be there when the school buses were there.
Mhm. That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So I'm glad you're talking to the police commission.
Mhm.
Is that about enforcement? Would it be the police that would enforce
Yes.
this? Because I'm thinking to myself, okay, we have policemen that are doing public safety, serious public safety, and then if they're running around giving warnings or tickets out to a garbage disposal person or someone that's mowing their lawn, it just, as
I
long as they
think-
have total buy-in, which
I
seems really
think,
crazy.
yeah, well, we've had, Frank and I met with Chief Anderson, and, you know, this might be one of his last things before, but God bless him before he retires, but he said,
Intrepid, right in there.
but he said they're happy to enforce something if it's in writing, and, but I also think that this is gonna probably be kind of like the blight ordinance in the sense that early on, there was a lot of work and education, and it's, you know, there isn't as much that needs to be done right now. I could be wrong about that, but, you know, early on, there'll be a lot going on, and then you know, everyone starts to understand.
Okay, yeah, Bill.
The school buses, do they run from like 7 to 9 o'clock? Well, the garbage guys aren't taking that time off for coffee, I'm sure.
I think they adjust their work. I mean, you know, principally, there have been some complaints when they were actually coming to the school itself to pick up the school garbage.
Oh.
And that's where we had some
That I
complaints.
understand.
And so my guess is that they want to get there and get out really early. As far as operating the other parts of town, I mean, it's just you know, it's probably hit or miss with the school bus. But I'm guessing that once, the high school is the last school to open, right?
No.
No, it's first, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite. I'm sorry, it's the first one open,
Yeah.
and then the elementaries are the last. So
Yeah.
after that, they probably have the rest of the morning, you know, to you know, do their pickups.
Well, God
But
bless
these are all
you.
things we're working on. Yeah.
Well, I'm
Be
glad
interesting.
that we gave you
Yeah.
an issue that's just bereft of all complexity.
Yeah.
And
Well-
I wish you the best of luck.
You know, but I think it's something that we can actually work with, because we're really just talking about hours of operation. We're not getting into the weeds of mandating types of equipment that can be used.
Well, then,
And that's a whole nother thing, and both the police chief and our first selectman said they really don't want to go down that path.
that's a great report, and thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Good questions.
If you want to stay, you're invited, because there are other things that have
Okay.
your name on them later on.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Exciting thing.
We'll get you out
Update,
before the storm, before
Yeah.
the snow hits.
update on Appendix B.
He's got a lot.
May,
N.
I will defer to my esteemed colleague.
May, done.
I see this slipping.
Wasn't slipping.
Budget.
It's,
May,
there's
all
real
right.
work to be done.
All right, we have a commitment, that's good.
Rather than saying it's slipping.
Although
a lot of other stuff
although
going
I
on.
do believe, and you and I had this conversation earlier, the, that whole thing on the meetings, which was, what was the?
Right, that was
Section
section
four.
4.
Thank
Right.
you. We'll just, I think we can do that sooner than that, because if I'm not mistaken, we're basically just saying we're taking that out.
That was I thought, the easiest way, that
Well,
keeps us
that's
in
where-
compliance and
Yeah,
we
that's-
default to FOIA and Robert's rules, yeah,
But
otherwise.
that's where Wayne and I had come to, and Krista, that we're just going to say, this doesn't exist anymore. Bye. And we have FOIA to lead us, so we can bring that into a March or April meeting without any people yelling and screaming about that one.
All right.
No, I'd
I'll,
rather just get it done
I'll-
and get that
Or-
one.
I'll put
Or April.
Section 4, well, what the heck,
Section 4 is one section.
it's
that
just a small piece, but
Yeah.
we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The rest, May, all right. other things here for discussion action. Place one person on the Board of Ethics. Krista will work on that. It has to be a majority of those present and voting have to vote for one person at least, hopefully just one. And that's been the difficulty because we're split 30-30-30 among the three candidates, yes. So we'll carefully explain what we're looking for and say, listen folks, stop and think and see if you can settle on somebody and let's get them on the Board of Ethics. All good candidates.
Seth, may I make a?
Yes, Krista.
Would this body be interested in adding something into the charter or town code that codifies a different system?
No.
Okay. Well, that's
From my
Jackson.
No, it's just, you know. It'll be me and the town clerk trying to get this done.
I bring it up in that we have elections every November and the seats are filled based upon the results, highest down. This is obviously being handled in a different manner where you need a majority. I didn't know if you could codify it so the Board of Ethics is filled in a different way, i.e. the top vote getters, but that's.
I'm gonna add to it. This is the Board of Ethics. This is a very important board, and therefore you want the majority of candidates to be there.
Could we establish a rule that in the election, the candidacy of three candidates, the bottom one drops out? That would leave two candidates, and you're probably going to get a majority when you do it that way.
What if you have 4 candidates or 5
Yeah,
candidates?
fine. Let's phrase the rule so it satisfies the situation.
Well, we started with 5.
Yeah, we can phrase the
And
rule
we put 2 on,
that one candidate
And
drops
one
out each
resigned,
time.
and 1 resigned, yeah.
Again, I mentioned this in that I don't think this is a scenario which could be resolved for this particular seating, but obviously this is a board that is codified in the town code. So looking forward, if this is something TGS and A would like, what would be an appropriate way in which to phrase it so
We're
that.
fortunate in that the town code doesn't have to do with this crazy situation, so we could make up a rule.
Correct, that's what I'm,
So that
Throwing out.
as
whatever you
Susan
felt was
points
appropriate.
out, you know, if we have 5 candidates, a rule could be that one candidate, the bottom candidate will drop out after every election until a majority is received.
Certainly something.
Okay, so, we've got that one nailed.
Can I just, I wanted to add on that, can we make sure, encourage each of the candidates to speak at our meeting? Because it's been a long time since we've had this first discussion, and I think we should hear who they are again, because that may encourage us to have a better feel. And if anyone else had any other ideas, you had some ideas on what you thought could happen.
Sure, I think that's fine.
And check in
You
and
can
see if
have
they
each
actually
one.
still want to
Well,
be on it.
I'll ask the candidates, first of all, give them all a call, make sure they're gonna be there.
Yes,
And then, if they are, ask them if they wanna speak again, and then I'll go ahead and call them up.
Can we have new candidates?
No,
No,
No.
No.
we've already
I'm
done
just
that.
asking, why not?
because you've already eliminated 2 others already.
Yeah,
No, we eliminated one because we voted them in with majority. We eliminated the other one because they resigned.
There were 5.
we
now
elected
there's
2 though
2 were
already.
elected,
Two
1
elected,
resigned,
one
1 dropped
resigned.
out. Would it be worthwhile to have a current member speak about what the board does? Would that help people make a decision if they heard more about what this body does?
Going on that,
It's-
I actually have an idea.
It's on the, excuse me?
I know it's not good.
Sorry,
Susan?
I was gonna say, maybe the 2 current members, maybe you or someone could just give 3 or 4 lines of each of the skill sets that those 2 people bring to the ethics, because, and I don't remember all their specificities, but let's just say it would be helpful to have skill sets of X, Y, and Z, but if those 2 people have the same skill sets, then maybe you're looking for the best candidate that has a different skill set. So I don't need to have a big, long discussion, but it might be helpful for members of the RTM not only to know what they do, but what we already have on there that we might be missing.
I
No?
don't want it
to analysis of
Yeah,
people.
and I
I'm not
don't-
sure that's.
And I don't want people being directed because, Seth believes these are the 3 skill sets that are necessary. I may believe a different 3 skill sets are necessary.
And probably would.
And therefore, if we voted, that may be why we're voting for different people. And so, while I think it's a good idea,
Yeah.
I just think that it leads people in a direction that I don't think was your intent.
You're gonna have a different amount of people, possibly, members there at the next meeting, and maybe
Yeah.
you'll get a different, they won't all be equal.
You're optimistic, Bill.
I
I'm
know.
going with 73 people and we're gonna have the same outcome.
Well, maybe I'll have to have an odd number of people to take a vote.
No, you need a majority, so you need,
Majority.
you need what,
30,
36?
yeah, 37.
36
Well.
or 37?
Well,
I have no problem, I tell you what I can, first of all, I can read what the Board of Ethics does. It's not a long,
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's right there in appendix
Yeah.
C, and so it's in the code. We can do that, and once you put that on the table. Do we have resumes of the candidates?
No, we've never asked for resumes.
Okay, well, then it'd probably do them well to get up and speak. And after the people hear what the Board of Ethics does, then they can make a decision about, based upon what some of the people talk about, as to who they think would be appropriate. We can do it that way.
Just as an
Yes.
aside, when we were
Okay.
looking at the shuffle, one of my comments were that there were 82 people in the RTM sitting there at that time, and I'm sure those 82 people could come up with at least 115 different costs for what that was. So, I don't, everybody has their own view of what they believe is necessary for those positions, and it's an important one.
It's there, they have to make a decision, golly. And so all I'm asking them to do is, we have a few more people, get behind a couple and let's get somebody done. Okay,
Wait, Fidelia.
I just was gonna say, I'd like to follow up with Frank though, not for this, but I do think it would be nice if we wrote a rule, some sort of rules, if we have this problem again, that we'll know what to do.
And it's like the highest vote count?
I think you're
Yeah.
right to,
No,
I think
it's the
it's to
majority
drop
of
off
those
the bottom.
present
and get-
voting.
You're
Still
right.
gotta get the majority,
I'll get it phrased as a resolution
yeah, and
and
then we can
vetted
say
by
here.
Wayne that it's a proper way of proceeding. And
Okay.
we'll proceed.
I agree with that. I think what you suggested is a good
It's
idea.
not fair to everybody.
all right,
Yeah, I think you could change it, it's time. Sure.
all right. Okay, Brian?
And Seth, I would just reiterate
Yes.
that if you can check in with those remaining 3 candidates to see, because I think we were missing 2 out of those 3 last time, perhaps. So maybe if they're not even there, that's like
Well,
Two of them were there.
that-
2 were
Two were
and
there.
1 wasn't?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
right, so
No, I will be in
doesn't
touch
mean that
with
you
them.
can't vote for that person, but that could be a tipping point.
Good,
Thank you.
done. Anything else on this one? Okay. Yes, Joe?
I was just saying that running for office is a fundamental right, and to take, try to get somebody not to run, that's not a good idea.
No, we're just counting to who was there. I'm gonna call each one of them.
We just want to make sure that they want to show up and speak if they can. Yeah.
Okay.
One question for you, Mr. Moderator. Is it necessarily a requirement to attend? You can encourage them to show up, but historically, has that been a
No,
requirement? Okay.
that has
All right, you're
no
not
bearing.
requiring
It's
them to
just that
attend.
if
Okay.
it's just a
Showing
fallout from,
Right, but not
You
required.
probably get more votes if you're there than if you're
Oh,
not
absolutely,
there.
Right.
absolutely.
That was, we saw that happen a few years ago. Yeah.
okay? All right. We'll put the, set the agenda after we go through these. Update American Rescue Plan Act, Mr. Davis.
I think it's time that we have an update. Those who have been listening to the Board of Selectmen meeting, seeing that I've been extremely vocal on that, and John and Kate are also now being vocal. We have to December of this year to have concrete projects that we're going to be doing, and then we have 2 years to complete it. But virtually all of our projects have contingency. So if we put down a project for $50,000 as of the end of December, and that project comes in at $45,000, we will be required to hand back $5,000 to the federal government. That has me very concerned. So I think the approach that we are taking at this time, there was, I believe, $479,000 reallocated by the Board of Selectmen that is not on the Board of Finance agenda for tomorrow, that will be moved, but I would have hoped that it would have been. But there's still approximately over $1.5 million that has not been reported into the Director of Finance so that it ends up on their list of, so like there's a contract for Park and Rec already ordered the water tank that was moved over there, but it's not on the list indicating that the contract has been done. A lot of this just has RFPs that haven't been completed. So that's something that John stated in the meeting that Kate, John, and I will be going through. I'm going to give my philosophy, although it hasn't been agreed to by anybody other than myself and members of F&B. But if we have, I believe a dump truck is not in this year's budget, but is on the capital plan for next year, well, we know what it takes to order a dump truck and that we'll get it within a 12-month period of time. The answer is, let's just move that forward, and we can then move certain projects that are there, but we're not sure will be completed. We move them into capital as part of the capital plan, or for those things that we haven't spent, we could subsequently bond them. So I would like to do anything we do, and the other thing that I've said in the F&B meeting is we approve the Hanson Road Bridge. And assuming that that comes in at $1 million net of what the government gives us, I have no problem of moving $1 million of Hanson Road into ARPA, so we know that's spent. Rescind the bonding on that, and then figure out where we're taking it from somebody else that we can rebond something else for $1 million and move it into capital, even if we're doing that off cycle. So I will be reporting on ARPA. The other thing that was not on yours, but sort of follows, and I'm sorry if this should wait to do business, is in the last 2 years in February, since we're well into the budget cycle, is that F&B gave a report on where we stood in comparison to the budget that we're running currently. So what are the changes in the numbers, what it's going, and I think that we should be as responsible for understanding what we're running now versus what we're going to approve, as opposed to just approving it and forgetting about it. So that's something I'd also like to do right after ARPA.
Is that F&B or education or both?
No, F&B does the whole town,
And that includes education?
of course. Is
Yeah,
that part
and
of
the
whole town?
ARPA also has some education in it too, right?
Nope,
No?
they have their own funds,
Right.
and they
Okay.
already
So,
spent them.
all right, okay.
So,
That was helpful, I
yeah,
remember.
yeah,
last year.
because it's gonna talk about some of the movers and drivers, some of the things that we're seeing, and it does really fall into some of the drivers that you're seeing in revenue, some of the drivers that you're seeing in expenses, and other things like that for both the town and the Board of Ed. So it explains some of, one of the things that F&B initiated is we work with the CFOs, Jen and Rich, in identifying what's our increases in our core business and what's growth. And I think that's a very important thing, especially since we're looking at 2.6% budgets right now in the operating side. So that's important to explain, because some of that growth in their core business, as an example, is this year we added a 52nd police officer in January. But in next year's budget, we're gonna have the full year for that 52nd officer. So yes, they're up, and I'm not even getting into the 53rd, but we have that. And so to understand, this is a core, but we approved that already. And so that just helps explain some of the things that are going on in this year's budget and what we can expect in the next year.
Jack, I also think it's particularly was helpful because we've had so many new people come in. We have a lot of long-term people who've gone off to RTM in the last year or two.
Yeah.
And so with all the new people, it could
So I'd like to do that right after ARPA, and I do review both of these, both the town side and the Board of Ed side, with their respective financial people prior to presenting.
Jack, are you talking about doing this in February or not?
Yes, February.
Oh.
March is already, I mean,
So
this
in
is.
2 weeks? You're
Yeah,
gonna
in
do this
2
in 2
weeks.
weeks?
Yeah, I can do
Okay.
that in 2 weeks. I can do it now.
Yeah, I was in OPC this afternoon, and the chairman of the Board of Finance was going through the increases in the budget, and that's just as it stands now, they're substantial. So it's gonna take some real work to try and reconcile everything and see what they can do to keep, to limit the size of the increase. It's, right now, right, it's,
Well, that's one of the other things that just, if you haven't listened to F&B's meeting, it may be worthwhile. F&B, and I'm going to be very cautious on what we've said, but the term is masking. Because we have been, we had a change in what went on, and not that I'm against any of these, but we've had Ox Ridge, HHR at 85 mil. We have right now Great Island at 85 mil, and Ox Ridge, let's just say, is 50. That already brings us up to about $220 million of authorized debt. When you add on Tokenique, which we're still paying off, we're probably at 230. In the past, rates were very low, so we could virtually bond toilet paper if we wanted to. And not that we did, but it made sense to bond things because money was so cheap. Well, money isn't cheap, and we didn't have those other two large projects. We didn't know that Great Island was on the horizon, and HHR was coming in at about 60, not at 101. So it means that it may be time to rethink some of what we're bonding. And we've been sort of masking what the real increases in the operating budgets have been over the last couple of years, because we're using cash that we're getting from give-backs from the company, from the two organizations. We've had increased returns on investments that we've been able to use. We've had a 1% growth in the grand list, which generates $2 million of incremental cash. So if you're looking at all that, and the fact that even in this year's budget we have $3 million for investment income, eventually that's going to be back down to $1 million, which was high in the prior years if we made $1 million. That's a $2 million gap that we have to go and figure out. You also end up with situations that because these large developments will end in about 2 years or be completed, while we'll have the grand list, which we are seeing growth in, we're not having the building revenues coming in, we're not having the transfers in the mortgage coming in, we're not seeing the P&Z revenue coming in. All three of those are down this year, next year's budget. So there's some gaps that are going. Every time that we bond something, you can take about 8%. So if we're doing $5 million of bonding on small stuff, that's about $400,000 based upon the new grand list. That's 3 to 4 basis points that we're kicking down the road. And so maybe it's time that we stop bonding some of the small stuff that we can afford to pay, use our cash from the grand list that we're having, and start looking at the balance sheet, managing that as well as the income statement. And I know this is horrible, but tax our taxpayers for smaller projects in capital that we really haven't, we've been covering or masking by bonding those things. And so, yes, it may mean that we have a larger expense, but, you know, these 3% increases in the mill rate is not what the operating budgets are growing by. And it's, you know, we're just asking, we'll be having conversations with the Board of Finance and, on that there's a number of us who believe that this is now time to start reflecting what it really costs to run this town, so people have an idea about it.
Well, at the OPC meeting, that's basically what I said to the chair of the Board of Education and the Board of Finance and the first selectman. I said, our committees are out there and we're involved right now. So we're right there, with, you know, working with you to try and find solutions, and we will continue to do that.
Yeah.
Stephanie asked
Okay.
a question regarding that
Yes,
present.
yeah, Krista.
Just more of a logistical question. For the presentation on the update on the budget, are you going to be looking at a PowerPoint? So do I need to help you with,
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I may just go through some high level, but I don't really want to do a PowerPoint there. I think I can just talk, and what I'll do is I'll put together some numbers and have it sent to everyone so they can print out and kill their own trees.
Do Excel sheets, it doesn't have to be a.
Well, I was only going to do Excel. I'm not. doing
Excel is
PowerPoint.
fine, but we need to look at something besides your beautiful face.
I was just gonna say if there's a handout in lieu of
I
a
might
PowerPoint,
do-
just
I might do
something
a
to help
handout.
support.
That is fine.
It's also really hard to read at the everything on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get that
I
to
just
read
think
as
it's-
good as I'd like it to.
Because
be.
I look out at you,
Yes. We're all
so I
asleep.
see a different vision than you all see. Seth and I have a different perspective. Just to help people stay
Right,
with
and-
you,
and
that
no,
they can refer to something.
I'm
I can't.
not just reading numbers because I know them.
No, it's really-
So I
I'm
see
not-
who's just hasn't looked at the budget
I
at
think
all
he's
and looks
referring
at
to
it.
the glazed look on.
I'm just trying
Well,
to
some of the
help
glazed
you-
look is
help you
simple
help them
because they don't
understand.
understand
No,
numbers,
the-
but that's
the
something
real-
There's
else.
that too, but it's not.
The real scary thing is when you sit there and you know what they're talking about. Then you know you're in far
That's
too
the
deep.
terrifying one.
You're in
For
way
those
too
who are
deep.
not as
Exactly.
No, in the past, I'm thinking of just doing a handout so people can read, but I have mentioned, and I mention this frequently, you know, Jen Janeski does an absolutely phenomenal report that's in every Board of Finance meeting packet, and it's such that if you go to the agenda, you can just click on that little blue number 4, it's usually number 4, and it brings you right to it. And one of the great things about the system that Jen does, and this is relatively, I'm gonna say done since Jen has been here, is that they do a 5-year moving average by month, so that you could actually say, look, over the last 5 years, we would have gotten, let's say, 85% of our taxes in by the end of January. Here's where we are now. So that starts to identify things, or this is the expense we usually would have had here. And if there's a variance, there's a couple of words there explaining what the variance is. And so, you know, it's something that I strongly recommend.
If there's
because
something
it's a
you'd like,
really
I can put in the
valuable
packet.
document.
To that point, if there's something you think would be helpful to the packet for the email, you know,
Yeah,
with
I
Seth's
can do
approval,
that.
of course, I mean, look at that.
And quite honestly, Rich Rudel does a monthly report that's on the Board of, which board, Education.
For the finance
And,
committee.
yeah, and that's what I basically would be doing, maybe at a higher level, so there's not as many numbers. But, yeah, F&B is supposed to look at those, and I encourage everyone to look at those on an ongoing basis.
All right, okay. Update on Great Island. Mr. Adeletta.
So since our last update, there's probably 4 main topics that the committee's been going over. There's many more than that, but the 4 main categories are each week, each meeting, there's an update on the ongoing maintenance and operating items being performed by Public Works. Many of those are in the nature of what you would experience as a landlord, maintaining something that's broken at one of the residences, or there's a flooding in one of the basements, and things of that nature. 3 of the past meetings have had a discussion, and then a presentation, and then a follow-up presentation, all related to what's referred to as 23A, which is the road that is being reworked. There was an initial discussion, and a concept was presented, I think it was at the November meeting, a follow-on presentation by Mr. Flaherty's firm,
Renison.
where there was a little more technical presentation put together, and these were in anticipation of drawings to be submitted to the various boards for consideration. 2 alternatives were presented at the December meeting. The board discussed, gave views, shared opinions, and one of the versions was selected. The basic difference between the 2 is they all involve widening the street to the requisite width to accommodate 2-way traffic. That's the primary purpose for the modification. The intention is to have a pedestrian access along this new piece. And the portion of the road that we're talking about is the portion from the entrance to the circle. Just that portion is always being considered right now, to allow that 2-way traffic, to allow, among other things, emergency vehicles to be able to enter and exit, and to allow 2 vehicles to pass on the same road. The rest of the loop, at least initially, being considered as one-way, and as is can accommodate that traffic. Anyway, the major of the 2 versions of the plan had to do with the entrance. The entrance needs to be widened, and there was one plan that had one of the columns being moved to allow for the double width and the pedestrian access all within the 2 columns. Another version, let me see if I get this right, put the pedestrian access outside the column, and then there was a debate back and forth about, gee, one of these makes it look a little askew when you're coming off the bridge. That went back and forth. So that was all done with the intention of submitting to the various boards, the boards being EPC, P&Z, ARB, and the project is winding its way through that process right now. The plans are actually pretty detailed. Other things that were discussed.
Mark, which one, did you come up with one recommendation for a plan, or both those plans going through the process?
The committee did not come up with a recommendation necessarily. The views were shared. There was no vote as to a recommendation. I don't have in front of me which one they chose. I believe it was the single with everything in between the columns is what I don't have those notes in front of me. Is that the one? I think that's not it. I think that's
It's a version that looks very, very nice, very, very nice.
They both looked very nice, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and I think it got tweaked by ARB, so I mean
I think they're being tweaked along the way.
Yeah.
That happened. Other item, though, that was discussed at the second most recent meeting was folks had raised questions regarding ambiguity of the charge of the GIAC as the GIAC started exploring the possibility of an RFP and an RFQ and getting some guidance from a consultant on how to guide its thinking around governance, long-term strategy, things of that sort. So the charge, it was suggested the charge be clarified. I believe the Board of Selectmen did act on that charge for the GIAC to clarify that such activities are within the scope. There have been questions regarding the timeline and phases of the activities of the GIAC. Right now, the one timeline that's pretty clear and been mapped out multiple times is the timeline to getting the approval for a 23A through, with the idea of being able to start construction and try to get it done by summer, and also the timing to continue to move forward on the pedestrian access as well. Much beyond that, I get questions come in regarding what is the timeline for further development of a strategy and governance. That has not been mapped out very firmly in any way. It's those two projects, mainly 23A that's been mapped out, firm timeline and implemented, or trying to implement. So that's the update with a bit more detail that I plan to provide. If it's on the agenda, Mr. Moderator,
All right.
for the RTM
Yeah.
next round.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Any word, I'll ask him then I'll get you. They were talking about hiring a consultant who has expertise in how to organize these things. Is the committee gonna organize that? Is it the Board of Selectmen, or how's that, is that still out in the future?
Sure. So the activities to date have revolved around what is the process to engaging a consultant. We had a presentation at Kate on how to run an RFQ, which is basically the qualifications that you're looking for before you go out with an RFP. So the committee's still in the stage of mapping that out, how to go about putting together an RFQ, and then subsequent to that an RFP. But to answer your question, who will be engaging? I believe the committee doesn't engage anybody. I believe it would ultimately be a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, okay. Lois?
When we say pedestrians, does that include bicyclists having access to Great Island?
Yeah, there was some discussion about that, and pedestrian is pedestrian.
Okay.
Pedestrian is not dogs, pedestrian's pedestrian. No bikes, no vehicles.
And a
At least
march?
at least at this very
And a march
initial,
first?
the term soft open has been used to get some sort of rudimentary access. It's just not set up, nothing else has been set up for much beyond possibly walking. And the idea is to have a walkway designated along the road that exists. No details have been discussed as to where, what side of the road or anything like that, but the idea of having access and trying to keep that access to the hard surface, at least initially, away from the residences, away from the water access, away from paths that haven't been prepped for access for
Pedestrian
traffic.
With a very strong reminder, there are no rests or bathrooms on that property.
Things that have been discussed, it's taken into account are parking. You asked about bicycles. Where to put the bicycle, you ride your bicycle there, has been discussed, not resolved yet, but discussed. Parking, where to park if you choose to drive. The areas that have been discussed is obviously Pear Tree Point's right down the street there.
That's why, I mean, Pear Tree is easy, you can put your bike on your car and park in Pear Tree and then ride your bike. So
No.
it's, but you can't, I get it, that's not the rule, that's why I asked the question,
bike
because
out
it would be
front.
easier to do.
Is that desirable though?
I'm just saying you gotta think about these things.
These are the things that the committee
They talked about it.
socializing.
Mark, is it still April 1st when they are hoping for the construction to start? Was that, I saw in media reports, is that?
I wouldn't want to dispute something.
I think.
No, does that sound right, April 1st?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay,
Exactly.
sorry, thank you.
Yeah, no.
It was about a month of the.
I'm not aware that the timeline's changed, but we've had a meeting, we're having one.
Mark,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned something about no animals
Right.
or pets.
Pedestrian access right now has been discussed.
So pets can't go on the,
No.
okay, so when we vote on this addendum to a lease for somebody to have a pet, that means they have to keep that pet on their property. They get leased.
It does
They
say
can't
that.
go out, they start going out on the road, then everybody in town can go out on the road.
All right, so since you raised the point, and this has been, it's also was reviewed by Amy, and so, because the first three committees that reported on the original leases were public, housing and zoning, PZ&H, Public Works, and F&B. And while I trust even Mark better than I am, but we have all had copies of the resolution, of the leases, even before it's been assigned. And there was a strong request that Amy review all of this, since she has a heck of a lot more knowledge than any of us. And she had discussions with town council to make adjustments to the pet addendum that's there. And it's rather strict, the pet addendum.
So the pet will be restricted to the pet property.
The pet has to be under leash and control at all times.
But that means anybody in town can bring their.
No, this is only for
This
the residents.
is a two-tier system. There's a tier for the leasers, and there's a tier for the people
That
paying
is-
all the bills.
That is correct,
Yeah. that's
How
correct.
can you have that?
because that's what we're doing.
Oh, it's temporary.
Well, I don't know that it's temporary.
permanently.
Huh?
It could be permanent maybe, but the problem is you have a tenant. And
Yes.
if a tenant has a dog.
Yeah, I have no problem with the tenant having a dog. My problem is the two-tier.
No.
The citizen can't bring their dog on that property,
That's
No.
correct.
but the tenant can.
Well, you can get rid
That's
of the
because they're
tenant,
leasing.
then
No, no,
nobody
no, no,
takes
I don't wanna get rid of the tenant.
Yeah, but they pay money for their,
Well, that's
Area.
worthwhile to discuss on the floor of.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can see an amendment, I don't,
I wasn't looking at it.
Fine.
Approve the leases with the pets.
No. We sort of, there was a rider in there. There was something in the original leases on pets. However, this addendum, and I only believe that one or two of the places has it, when I read it, is rather restrictive. I mean, really is. But even, that gives me more confidence, is that Amy looked at it, and Amy made comments and changes in conjunction with town council. So this is only to say anybody who's leasing property, similar to any lease, that would be there. You know, you have an apartment and you have a cat or you have a dog. There's rules associated with that, and now we have an addendum to add on to that, should somebody have that.
I'll add, Susan
Yeah.
just pulled it up, it appears that the pets need to be retained, restricted to the residents'
Yeah.
premises,
Yeah, I have it
To
here.
their premises.
to their premises. is
Yeah,
what
it's in
it
our
said.
packet, yeah. It's
Okay.
in our- it's
So
in our-
that was-
So I didn't wanna see a two-tier system.
Well, let's do the pets when we get to them.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
Doesn't
give you
appear to be
something,
two-tiered, but I hear what you're saying, and they walk around.
I'll give you something to read.
So that's all I had, Seth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. But we'll put you in the big shelf.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance for the RTM. Susan asked me to put that
Why are
on.
we doing this?
And I'm, you know, I like it. Having served in the military, you know, commitment to your country. I
Have we
thought
ever done
it
it?
seemed like a nice thing to me. Anyway,
I have some remarks on it.
did you, well.
But I'd like to
since-
ask our proponent, why at this time do you think that this is appropriate? In other words, why did you introduce it?
Can we do something? Can we allow Susan to present?
Yes.
First, and then
Yes.
we can ask
Right.
questions?
Yes.
I'm fine with all the questions. So I guess I'll start with Frank's
I
question.
recognize Susan.
Thank you. Thank you. So, this has been on my mind for a long time, and I just joined Rules in November. And every agenda has been pet bill. And so I wanted to wait until I had been on Rules for a little while before I presented it. So the timing of it is, it's now I've been through a few meetings. I also wanted to give Seth some heads up, so at the end of the last rules meeting, I told him that I would like to put this on the meeting agenda, So that was the timing. There's no big, no big backstory to it. There's quite a few towns in the state of Connecticut that do say the Pledge of Allegiance, whether it's their town council or their RTM. US Congress says it before they have meetings. In Hartford, all sessions in the House and Senate chambers begin with the pledge and a prayer from the clergy, which I don't think they need to do. So just for an example, Greenwich, Stamford, Norwalk, New Canaan, Westport, Danbury, Waterbury, Bridgeport, Simsbury, Waterford, and Clinton are just a handful of the towns that say the Pledge of Allegiance before their meeting. I thought it was something to talk about because to me it unifies us as a group. I don't know why Darien does or did, I don't know if it's ever come up before, I didn't find that in any research. So there's no big mystery to the whole thing, I just think it's a nice way to start a meeting. Many other towns and again, the US Congress and Hartford do it, so there's no big magic to it. I just think it's a very calming way to start, it brings us all together as a town, and so I thought it was worth
So
putting
is
out.
there some reason to do it other than other towns are doing it?
I think, as I said, I think it unifies us at the start of a meeting. I think it's respectful to people that have served in the military. I think it just sets a good tone. I think we have a lot of controversy in different things, so this is just one thing to just start the meeting off just in I'll use the word patriotic way. I know that can be controversial. I had Googled, why do people say the pledge? And every article can be argued back and forth. So I didn't want to bring all that into here. I'm not looking for an argument. I'm just looking for a very respectful way. I guess standing outside, I think someone mentioned about voting. I think it was you, Joe. All the years that I used to stand outside the polls and I would have a veteran come up to me, it's at my soul. It's at my heart of soul. So to me, it's just a nice thing, a respectful thing to do. Jack told me that it was going to be a little controversial, and I was dumbfounded that anyone would even question why when so many other, I'm not saying we have to do it because other towns do it, but it's just, to me, a very respectful way to start a meeting. I'm happy to answer other questions. I'm happy to also say that I think we should only do it at our RTM meetings. I don't think we should do it at subcommittee meetings. Why? One of the reasons, and it may or may not agree with you guys, but there is a flag in the auditorium. If we have subcommittee meetings, there may or may not be a flag. Yes, the chairman could have a flag, but I'm not trying to give people an additional amount of work to do. I called some of the town clerks because I couldn't find some of this information on their websites. And one of the town clerks, I can't remember, I think it was Westport, said, we say it at every meeting and we say it at every Zoom meeting we have. So, and she said it with a lot of pride when she told me. So I'm not asking to add a lot of additional time. It's less than 30 seconds to say it. If people don't want to stand and say it, we're not going to have any police out there saying, oh my God, you didn't stand up and say it. But for those of us that do want to, I think it's...
Don't get you, Frank.
Yeah.
Okay. Frank, and I'll get Peter next.
I respect our colleague for her points. I don't weight very heavily the fact that other towns are doing it. I don't,
Okay.
And we're talking about patriotism and the veterans. And as an Army veteran myself, I was not a desk clerk, but I was in the infantry in Korea. I think I have a feel for patriotism, as we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can be patriotic by public service, running for election, serving in voluntary committees. I think you can be patriotic by doing community outreach, person to person, church committees, volunteer work. That's patriotic. That's doing some good. You can be patriotic by working with kids, disadvantaged people, underserved people, or disabled people. You can be patriotic by random acts of kindness. Giving $20 to a wounded warrior guy who sits out in front of Palmer's We all walk by them. But there's a military person who was wounded, some, doing what he can do. Or VFW. That's the way to show thanks to the military. I know you were honored when the veteran came up to you when you're standing outside of the election. But you were doing your patriotic thing by campaigning. You served on Board of Selectmen. You did your job. But for us, there's so many other ways that you can be patriotic. Now here's the punchline. I don't believe that we need to attest to our patriotism on a routine basis by rote, as if we were at a ball game or kindergarten.
I respect your opinion.
So if we vote on it, you can tell. But I'm looking for a way to protect the people who may vote against this so they're not called unpatriotic. This happens in communities where this mob sweeps through, calls for something, and the people who protested are then attacked. And I don't want us to set up something like that. So I really don't want to vote on this thing. So the reason I asked is why you proposed this at this time of this body. And I presented my counterpoint. So if it does go to the RTM, I'll probably, stay in contact. I might improve it a little bit. But then we have to vote on it in the RTM. And the people who sit down will be scorned by the people who stand up. And that's not healthy.
That's not
I
patriotic.
called Wayne to see if that could be a secret vote, confidential vote, as we do for moderator, as we do for Board of Ethics. His initial reaction was, I don't think so. But he's going to check on it, and he hasn't gotten back to us yet. So if we move this tonight to move to the RTM for a vote, stay tuned, because I recommend that either by our own adopting rules or something like that, that we honor people by the confidentiality for all the right reasons. For all the right reasons, but to avoid problems. Because I think there's some people who might agree with me, but I don't want to embarrass them. But I think you get the point.
Okay, others?
Yeah.
Peter?
Frank, thank you for that eloquent statement.
Well, it was,
I'll get my couple of notes here, but, I respect the flag, I carry it in my backpack every day. When I think back between being a practicing attorney and a government official, I've taken oaths to affirm the Constitution and laws of the United States 7 times. I feel like this is, I almost feel like, phrasing what Frank said a different way, do we feel like there's a affirmation gap? Do people feel like they need more opportunities to affirm their patriotism? And this is not just my opinion, but primarily I've had a number of constituents come up to me and brought this up and said, why are we doing this? And to amplify Frank's comments. I believe in respect for the flag. I think when we do this primarily in elementary schools or even in middle school, I'm not sure if they do the Pledge of Allegiance in middle school, that inculcates a sense of civic responsibility and respect for the flag, which is important, especially when people are growing up in their formative years. I'm all for that. But as we get older and more mature, there's another aspect of it. There's actually a constitutional right to be disrespectful of the flag. It's not something I subscribe to, but I know other people do, and there may be other people who feel like this is something that's going to smoke them out. And I actually think it threatens the nonpartisan essence of our body, because there are going to be people, frankly, there are going to be people that want this proposal to go through, and then people who are not going to want to. And if we have to vote openly, as Frank said, those people, there's going to be an identity of the two groups. And it's, you cannot ignore that more likely than not will be on a partisan basis.
Well, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of the part, I mean, I guess sorry, you're.
No, it's okay, you know, I respect that you bring it forward and you put some really, some thought into it. I'm less worried about what other towns do, but they're just, respect for the flag is important, I think it's important, but there's some people who think that it's not, that there are times when maybe they may want to be disrespectful of the flag, and that, under the law of the land, and the Supreme Court cases, that is a constitutional right that deserves to be respected and protected as much as my right to show respect for the flag in ways that I do, whether if I hang it at my house or in my backpack or whatever I might do. So, in that regard, that's how I feel.
And Jack?
Peter took one of the things, we actually had a conversation. You know, if Peter didn't ask the question, I would ask this people by a show of hands, how many people believe that you have the right to burn the American flag? And I'll raise my hand. You have the right to.
We're not taking votes, Jack, you're not taking votes here.
It's hypothetical.
But that's a litmus test, because people who didn't raise their hand do not understand the Constitution of the United States, that it's a Supreme Court decision that says you have that right. And I think we're sort of like in a no-win situation. This has been raised, and I say the Pledge of Allegiance every time I'm at a Board of Selectmen meeting, and frequently I may be the only one in the audience. I have a flag hanging outside of my house. But it reminds me of something today on national news, the fact that the Stanford Board of Ed decided not to take off for Columbus Day is now getting national recognition. Now, I know one of the people who sits on that board, a Republican who's rather conservative, who voted not to take off on Columbus Day. And the rationale is many of the hardworking families do not have that day off, and all of a sudden they have to figure out what they're going to do with their kids who are at home. But that's not what's being covered of what's there. It's whether or not this isn't another woke thing or something else along those lines. And with groups that are out there, I'm concerned that anyone who, for whatever reasons, they don't think it's necessary, or they feel that they have other things there, regardless if I would vote for it or not. I mean, I am wearing my flag today. I'm worried about possibly putting in harm's way members of our body, not by people within town, but by the other radical groups that are out there, with people's names and addresses out there and exposing them. And yet, if we bring it to the RTM and it gets voted down, I could just imagine what the Connecticut Mirror is going to say about nice Darien doesn't want to say a pledge to the United States, the flag. And so I'm in a difficult situation regardless of how I would vote, is that I care about the other people in my assembly and their right to express their feeling, for whatever reason it might be. And also that the coverage and the bad press to this town might also be not a true statement of why people may have voted yes or no. So I'm in sort of a dilemma. And you and I had this conversation. I spoke to Lois. She said, Susan was walking, and I pulled my car up and cut her off and said, let's talk.
Came at the calm walk. No.
I was on my way to Rings End to go buy some hardware, but still, you know, I'm really split. And if we could do a silent vote, I would be in favor of it, so nobody's exposed. I don't know whether or not it would pass or not. But I just think we're in a little bit of a dilemma, and I don't know what the answer to that is.
Okay. Others, comments? Yes,
Can-
Joe?
Can we make a rule to have a secret ballot?
No.
We can't do that.
No,
We
no,
don't know for sure.
It would take
The
a,
indications are we can't.
no, I spoke to town council, because I have gotten feedback, my ears are open, and I have gotten feedback on this.
It's that my constituents that have asked, brought this up, said the only way they would, if they wanted a secret ballot. And no ifs, ands, or buts.
All
The
right.
town code
Well,
doesn't provide for that. Only in a contested election may you have a
All right.
secret
Okay, I
ballot.
understand, I'm just telling you that's why there are
That's a
people that are
problem.
going to oppose
Alright.
this.
I hear everything, okay? You have options. Take no action. No vote, no nothing. And we go on to,
Leases.
we're not doing transportation because that's not ready. Great Island. We go on to the Great Island leases. That's one. 2 is you vote to put it on the agenda, okay? 3 is you vote to put it to vote in the RTM about whether they want it on the agenda or not. And I'll give you one more. I've heard all the concerns. I'm the moderator. I put it on the agenda, and I get up and lead whoever wants to stand up and say it. In the meeting, there's no meeting in the, there's no voting in the RTM, and there's no voting here. I just do it. Bill?
How does an atheist say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh boy, can we just not go down here?
Yeah,
I'd
I
like to
don't
vote
know.
to go to Great Island.
I don't have it.
Thank you.
So,
No answer.
that's,
I would like to amend one thing you said,
yes,
that if you choose to do it, that nobody has to stand up, that we can do it sitting down.
No, you can't.
no,
Then we'd all
it's,
be,
that's,
we'll all be in trouble.
oh, that'd be, that's the worst.
Sorry, Lois.
Yes.
So Seth, I appreciate all the comments everyone's made, and obviously I'm in the minority, and I'm willing to accept that. You guys all have great points. I guess I'm deeply disappointed, but that's fine. You guys, you know, I respect everyone's opinion. And I have talked to a lot of people that think it's a phenomenal thing. I did it while I was on the Board of Selectmen. I stood up and said it, so I'm hoping and praying if anyone doesn't agree with it and they ever choose to go on the Board of Selectmen, they would be able to stand up and say it. I know when I'm defeated, that's fine. Obviously, I think you guys all know how I feel. I guess I'm just, it was not supposed to be a controversial thing. It was not supposed to be this one against that one. It was not supposed, and as an elected official, I guess I feel like anytime I vote, I should be able to defend my vote, up or down. And I would hope whether it's a controversial issue or a very simple issue, anyone that sits in any elected position in this town should be able to defend their vote. And they shouldn't be, you know, feeling that, oh my God, I can't vote one way because I'm afraid of what someone's gonna say. Then maybe they shouldn't be in public office. I'm not saying it, I'm just saying, like,
what you're
we shouldn't,
saying, Beth.
unfortunately, I didn't,
I don't know
unfortunately, I
what you
guess.
just said.
No.
We shouldn't be in public office if we don't want to stand up
No,
and
no, no.
pledge allegiance to
No,
the
no, no,
flag.
I'm saying that's not what I said.
Well, I
what
want
she
to make
said.
sure I understand.
Okay, that's not what I said.
That's
That's not what
I-
she said.
What I said was, we should be able to defend our vote one way or the other, and
Yeah,
not have
any
people,
time.
All right.
and not have
All right.
people ready to, you know, tar and feather us for that. That's what I'm just saying. It's just very sad for me to think that a town like this, that we all see each other in the grocery store, and we're all trying to do the right thing, whether it's, you know, this or that. It's a very sad thing for me to think that someone would be concerned about how they vote because of how someone would treat them afterwards. That was my point.
I don't know why, I'm just generally concerned.
Okay,
Not
I-
afraid. But I'm concerned that the people who thoughtfully
Yes,
vote against it
right.
would then be,
Harassed.
assaulted, demeaned
Right.
Yeah.
by the people who were enthusiastic about it. And so if you were to table your recommendation or allow us to pass on, it would be a relief that we don't have to go through this.
But Frank, you do understand, you understand what I was saying. If you voted against it, I'm not saying you shouldn't be in office, that was
You
not
would.
my point.
You would, but
No,
you
I'm
wouldn't.
just saying,
No.
you misunderstood
just
my
try.
point. I just wanna make sure it's very
Well,
clear.
wait a minute,
What
enough.
Susan
I don't
is-
think, yeah,
wait,
again, I
give
don't
me a
think I
second,
understood
Sam.
what you, again, I don't
First
think
of
I
all,
understood what you
let me
said.
say, when I stopped Susan, we also talked about budget and a whole bunch of other things. It
Yeah,
wasn't
don't
just
run
the
her
fair.
over next time.
But what Susan said was, for all of us who are serving in office, all right, if you vote for a Board of Ed budget or against a Board of Ed budget, you should be willing to support why you came to that decision. So it wasn't on the
100%
flag, it was on any
Mike.
resolution that comes before our body. You should be willing to face the music. And quite honestly, that was a very important reason in the state of Tennessee, while the man who did the casting vote gave the right for women to vote and was subsequently run out of his own town. But he was willing to stand up for what he believed in. And that's what all of us need to do when we vote yes or no on any of these resolutions. And that's what Susan was saying.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
When Susan came to me, it had been on my mind to bring this to you. And we had, as we know, we've had a lot on the plate recently. And Susan said, well, would you put it on the next agenda? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I thought, as I thought about it, that the Board of Selectmen is doing the pledge, but I thought it was a great way to start off a meeting of elected officials, 100 of us, or 70, whoever, how many we get on a given evening. I thought it was a great way to start a meeting and to have everybody in the room sort of on a page together. I think feeling good about what they were doing and making a statement to the people who elected them that sort of like a statement of faith, if you will, in what we were doing. And I liked it that way. So that was some thinking on my part. You know, I'm willing to go out, put it on myself, and stand up there and, you know, raise my hand and say, okay, here we go, and look around and see if there's anybody standing with me. That would avoid people only having to decide whether they were going to get up for the pledge or not. But it doesn't put a whole bunch of people in a position where they're having to do a lot of voting.
They actually, what you would be doing is exactly what some of us are concerned about. And again, I'm not telling you whether or not I would vote for this or not vote for this, all right? And I'm not talking about my patriotism or everything else that I did that Frank so brilliantly discussed on what patriotism really is. And we all take an oath of office when we're elected. So we are
Well, we're
supporting
in.
Constitution and other things like that. So, but my biggest concern is the litmus test and outside groups coming in and harassing elected officials for whatever reason they choose not to vote yes on this, all right? And I respect them for not voting yes, same way I would respect everyone who does vote yes. So
All right, so
that's-
is there-
I don't want to put people in harm's way.
Okay, fine. Is there a motion on this thing? Is there a motion? I don't hear a motion. Next item.
I want to thank Susan for at least doing the research that she did.
I respect everyone's opinion and move on.
The special education transportation, that's not ready yet, probably won't be ready till next month. So, Great Island, the pet,
Let's go through, there's 3 resolutions here.
I'm going through them, so,
Okay.
one by one. Great Island Pet, I have PZ&H and Public Works, F&B has politely declined. So, that sound right?
Yeah, but that would be the last one that I put on the agenda.
Okay, well, I haven't got to the agenda. Okay, so can I have a motion, PCNH and Public Works assigned to Great Island, the pet?
Well, hang on, before you do that.
Yeah.
These are, all three are the leases, right there?
That's
No,
right.
Yeah, there are 3 leases, that's why I wanted to do it in a different
The
order.
one's an addendum to the lease, but they all relate
Right.
to leases.
That's correct.
And F&B is not gonna be on it?
No, we decided,
We,
the F&B committee,
oh.
Well said.
with
Where's
the
it being Jack is what it
No, Jack actually, F&B actually voted on all 3 of these leases. But after we voted on the last one, which was the pet addendum, the committee felt that we should not be reporting on it. There's no financial implication on this, and therefore, it's not really within our lane.
I disagree
So-
with that. I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
A lease is by all means a financial instrument.
No, we're gonna vote on, we're gonna do the first 2.
Okay, so,
We're just not doing the pet addendum.
Oh, it's a.
oh, we're
Well,
talking
the
about that
addendum's
addendum.
part
Just
of the
remember the
lease.
pets.
All right.
No, it's an add-on.
Yeah.
I don't get worked up very often.
That's why I said we're doing it.
Would anybody
That's
like
why I
to?
said we're doing it in the wrong order.
All right. Despite the distinguished Mr. Davis's thoughts on this, does anybody feel differently that they would like to see F&B on this?
No, we're talking about the pet addendum, right?
I will go again. It's the next item on the agenda after the transportation, which is not ready. It is Great Island updated pet addendum for tenants.
I'm sorry for, Jack, but I still think an addendum, an appendix, and exhibit to a financial instrument probably should be taken as part of the, I get what you're driving at. It doesn't have a financial.
We had a couple of big.
Are there
objections.
any
Yeah,
other,
a couple of
Big objection.
are there any other comments on this, please? So, does somebody want to move to have F&B on it or not? No. Okay. So I have PZ&H primary, Public Works secondary. Does that sound right?
Yep.
All right. So can I have a motion for that, please? To assign PZ&H primary, Public Works secondary.
I'll do it.
Thank you, Lois. Second, thank you, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That was
He's
good.
still there.
Yeah.
He's good. Yay, Michael.
Michael's here,
Sign of life.
so
How you doing, Michael?
I'm still here.
motion passes. Next item, Great Island residential lease extension, PZ&H primary,
Which
F&B and
one?
Public Works secondary.
Which one?
I said,
Which lease?
Lease.
Both of them are having, both resolutions are having extensions. So if why don't we first
The
go
non-18 Great Island.
on 18 Great Island?
Well, the first
Because
Okay.
the RTM did not vote on that lease because it was already in effect when we
Yeah. Right.
purchased the island.
Right.
It is the same exact lease that we voted and approved sans the stable.
it changed, yeah, all right.
All right, and so everything's the same, the rent is the same, the only thing that's changing on 18 Great Island Road is the term. So that would be the first one when we're doing the agenda. And on that one, again, PZ&H primary, Public Works secondary, F&B secondary.
Have a motion, please, yes. Bill.
Why is that lease longer than a year?
Because we're
Right.
timing it to be equal to the other leases.
Okay, thank you.
Motion in favor of assigning PZ&H primary, F&B and Public Works secondary. Lois,
I'll second.
Patty second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, I see none. Passes. So now we go back to the residential lease extension.
And let me add something to this one also, because there's some nuances. 18 Great Island Road expires in March. And that's why we're doing this one first and separate. The other ones that are listed here, which by this time one should know that the stable is vacating the premises on March 1st. If you did not know that, it was announced at the Board of Selectmen meeting, and there's 2 apartments there. One of the apartments was also being let by the stable. That will be vacated at the same time. What this resolution is doing, since the only change is on the term of the leases, is we're authorizing the first selectman to sign these leases. Should they come to fruition, we don't know that they're all going to happen, but we're authorizing the first selectman to sign a lease ahead of that time in their negotiations. So that's all we're doing.
When do they end?
May.
25.
No, well, no,
Yes.
Yeah.
they currently end
May
May
of
20, we gave 1-year leases, so they're currently ending of May of '24. And
No,
so
it's
this is
extending it
extending it
for a year.
into
This is July.
July.
This one.
July of
July
25.
25.
Right.
So Jack, this is allowing the first selectman to execute, to sign these leases ahead of the current lease maturing?
No, it's giving the authorization that when they're in negotiation with all
Right.
the tenants now. So when they have one that says,
Yes.
yes.
They've got a template.
They have, because it's the same lease that we've already approved.
So then it won't come back around for us?
It doesn't have to show up to us that we got 2 here, 3 there. We're just giving them saying, yes, the rental is the same, the term is changing, and without getting into it, there will now be a transfer because of the loss of the stable lease and that one apartment. There is a transfer
Right.
from the Board of Selectmen budget into the Great Island Special Fund. I believe it was, they talked about different numbers, but I thought it was 225,000 and that's part of the Board of Selectmen increase this year. But this is just saying, you get it, sign it, doesn't have to come back to us.
Lois,
Jack, the 18 Great Island Road is going to have a July 2025 termination date also, so
Right.
so we're all
So
consistent
we're
now.
putting them all in the same
Thank you.
place. And then, should they come to fruition, 1 or 2 of those people that are listed in here have a pet, hence the pet addendum. That's why I said the order was suit.
I got it.
Yeah,
so we got PZ and H, F and B in Public Works, right?
yep, on the second one.
Yep. All right.
Well, hang on, Mr.
So-
Moderator, I'm not sure we had a motion on
Yeah, we
those
did.
two.
All right, well, we'll,
Wait, Seth, was it public works or public
Lois,
safety?
wait, to our clerk. Lois moved it, Patty seconded it.
Got it.
yes,
That's what Mark was
that's what I
asking.
heard. Okay, so we'll vote?
Wait, I'm sorry,
Oh.
can you repeat the vote?
Which one are we voting on?
With, now, Great Island Residential Lease Extension.
Yep, yeah. Prior and second.
P and Z.
Yeah, we juggled that around.
Word is secondary, F and B.
Safety's on many of those leases,
Yeah.
it's.
It was just the Pat one I was thinking.
Okay,
If you want to go ahead,
ready to vote?
you can take off first.
All those in favor?
I think you should come on.
Okay. Opposed, I see none. Abstentions? Carries unanimously. Okay, let's move to setting the agenda. Call to order, acceptance of the agenda, approval of the minutes, vote to place 1 person on the Board of Ethics.
Hold on.
Yes?
Before we put them on the Board of Ethics, we could consider the rule change concerning the mechanics of it.
No.
No? No, it's,
So we're gonna have 3 candidates?
no, we're gonna have a change to the code.
For the
That's
next
what-
one.
the next one.
For the next.
And guess who's
election.
gonna get it?
So have you assigned TGSNA to this, or is that not assigned?
It may just be a Wayne thing, it may not invoke a committee, and that would be
But this
a
is a-
rule change,
This is an ordinance.
for the,
No, this would be a change
No,
to.
it's ordinance, it will come,
but I think what we're all afraid of, concerned about, is that with 3 candidates, we're getting locked again.
Well,
And if we do, then we're not gonna take another vote to get locked again. If we get locked, we should have a resolution out there that says one drops off.
Can't do
you
that.
can't do that.
Not gonna do that.
Unless we change the town code
We gotta
first.
change the, no,
Yeah,
He
and-
wants to do that.
Well.
You could
and-
do that
and
going
we can-
forward,
We can
but
allow
not 2
Frank to
weeks.
do.
Yeah, I think, just think you can't do it for this vote, Frank.
Right.
I think
No,
we're-
no, no.
What?
Take this off the
I think that everybody's saying that we should do that, but not for this vote, because we're right in the middle of all this already. So we need to, going forward, after we have you
So,
Keep going on
I'm gonna read it back to you. If we get locked up, at the
we're locked
meeting,
up.
We lost.
then we
Keep
move
voting.
on to another issue and
Right.
deal with it next time around.
What
Correct.
we're saying,
Yes.
wait, what we are saying is TGS&A should write the ordinance based
Right.
upon the input from the committee. And so the next time we have an opening, we can then apply
Okay.
what you said. But I do want to go back
And,
to,
and just to, I'm not gonna call a meeting TGS just to do that this time because it's not gonna come up this time. I'll
Okay.
handle it.
right. But Seth, I do want to go back to the transportation, the Board of Ed
Yeah, yeah.
transportation.
Yeah,
Wait, can
Um,
we, just want to, but, so if we don't get a majority in this thing, in this next election, we're gonna have to take it up again in our March meeting, but we
Correct.
cannot
Correct.
apply a new set of rules for how we vote. It's only for the next time we do
Right.
elections or anything else.
So off
Here.
cycle.
Well, I would say that then we don't go home until we have a vote. The only way to deal with
but
this
there's
is,
nothing preventing me from saying, okay, vote again.
I think we
So
should do
let's do it
that.
at the end of the meeting, not at the beginning of the meeting.
No,
No, you've gotta have a majority to be able to conduct the meeting, so
But you'll
you
give the
can't
numbers,
do
right?
that. That's why we put it early.
Seth, I think you should do that. I think it should be,
Yeah.
we're not going home until we
Oh, by the
get
way,
a
everybody,
majority vote.
okay, I'll add that to my explanation.
Can we put on FanDuel what the over-under of the meeting
Yeah.
is?
But you had,
Good
wait,
thought.
in private conversation, you had said something about if we don't get a majority, then maybe within each of our districts, we talk about it and
Yeah.
see if we can,
I was gonna
Encourage
set
some-
time aside, 5 minutes for them all to caucus before they do the first vote.
each district.
Yeah, say, okay,
That's
Wait,
it,
sit-
no,
wait,
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 wait.
no.
We're not doing
Yeah.
it this
No.
time, that's done already.
Yeah,
It's done.
that doesn't make sense.
no, no, but as far as picking which one of the nominated parties they want to.
No.
No?
No.
Well,
No,
no?
this
All
is an
right,
individual vote.
all right.
No.
Can we go back before we do the agenda to the Board of Ed
Transportation,
Transportation?
okay,
I would like to move on that. We can still assign committees, because
In
Ed and
case
I
it's
have been
ready?
talking to it. Well, it's probably gonna be ready in March or April.
right.
But Ed is already working on this, I'm already working on it, I know the Board of Finance is already working on it. And we would have had whether or not it's going forward tomorrow, but I'm assuming it'll be done shortly thereafter. On that, I'd like to move that education is primary and F&B is secondary, because I believe that will be off-cycle and I do not believe we will be bonding them.
All right,
So,
so
do I
can I have
second?
a motion in favor of
I
that,
just
please?
made the
Yeah, that's
motion.
your motion, second? Yep, Lois. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
It passes. Okay, now, setting the agenda, call to order, acceptance of the agenda, approval of the minutes, vote on the Board of Ethics, update on the Rescue Plan Act, update on Great Island.
You're putting in
Budget.
Jack, you're
What?
putting in Jack's slideshow,
Financial
Excel,
Yeah, I'm
handout.
yes,
I get a breather after Great Island.
Oh, you do it, you're
Oh, you're
not
not
going
gonna
one
do
to
it
the
back to
other?
back?
I could do it that way,
I think it
but
makes sense to do it together.
so do I, but Seth
Oh,
is
sorry,
running the
sorry.
agenda.
all right. So, we'll put 6 will be, F&B update on the budget.
On the current year fiscal '24 budget.
I'll get good wording before I print it.
I got it, so.
But that's it, 5, 6. And then
Through,
update,
pardon me, through February?
No, the numbers, if I'm using, the budget for, that was presented would have been discussed tomorrow. It's through January.
Okay.
Okay, so, we're doing the budget, then update on Great Island, and then would be lease 18 Great Island,
Yeah.
Great Island residential,
Yeah.
and then updated pet amendment, addendum.
I'll make
Sound right, guys?
Yes.
Are we,
Sounds good.
back to part 4, are you gonna table that to March?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept that agenda.
We have a second, I see Frank.
Pause discussion.
A
Earlier,
pause.
we talked about an appendix B, which was the entire, that whole package we have, had what I call the Krista clarification on the notifications of 5 days, 10 days. Now, is it the sense of this body that we should just go throw a dart and fix that thing now? Or wait for it when it comes along with appendix B?
I thought they said March, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's March.
But has
I
that
think we
been,
can pinpoint that one, get it done.
In this coming meeting?
No.
No, March.
Fine, that's fine. Good.
and that's been assigned as part of the other part?
That's F&B
Yeah,
and
got 2 things now to
TTSA.
work on for the next meeting.
There you
Not
go.
this one.
Busy. Okay, so, are we in agreement, folks?
Yes, sir.
Well, there
That's
was-
it?
We have a motion, we need a second.
So I had a motion, I swear I had a motion.
Somewhere.
Yes, was that Mark?
That was-
Oh,
I'll
Susan,
I'll
thank you,
second.
a second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, I see none, abstentions, I see none, it carries. Other business? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
There, that's lovely, second from Peter. All in favor, please rise.
With enthusiasm.